Welcome back. Happening later today, President Trump set to hold a high-stakes meeting with congressional leadership. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries will be there alongside Speaker Mike Johnson and Majority Leader John Thune in a last-ditch effort to prevent a government shutdown. Government funding runs out tomorrow at midnight. Democrats are looking to extend subsidies for Obamacare, which will expire at the end of the year. They also want to make it easier for states to enroll illegal immigrants into taxpayer-funded health care. Here's Speaker Mike Johnson and Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman with me yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures.
The purpose of the meeting is so that the president can assemble the four leaders. He's going to tell Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries to stop playing political games. What's really important to point out here, Maria, I'm glad you mentioned the national debt. You know, the statutes in federal law require Congress to do 12 separate appropriations bills every year. That's the only way to ensure stewardship of taxpayer funds, to spend less money and make government more responsible. They have already voted for these exact levels of spending. We're just keeping the doors open, but they want to shut it. And you know what they're going to jeopardize? Troops pay, okay? They're going to jeopardize WIC funding, Women, Infants, and Children's Nutrition Program, FEMA services, telemedicine and telehealth, all the rest. They're going to jeopardize all that for a political stunt.
It is always, always wrong to shut our government down. That is a core responsibility. I'm always going to vote against those things. And if it's the Republican side or now it's our side, especially with the kinds of chaos that we are facing after Kirk, and now there's a Cat 5 storm that might hit our nation too. Now, and you're willing to threaten us down. I was the only Democrat voting against that. And now that CR was the same CR from the Biden administration as well, too.
Right.
For me, I'm a big believer of if you want to change the policies, win elections. And that's really the way democracy works.
Joining me now is Wisconsin Congressman Tom Tiffany. Congressman, what do you think happens here? Give us the odds of a shutdown.
Well, I think the Democrats are playing a weak hand here, and I hope the president and our leadership in Congress goes in and plays what is a strong hand. The American people don't want illegal aliens to get health care at the expense of their fellow Americans. And coming from a rural district, we put in a stabilization fund of $50 billion in the Working Families Bill to help rural hospitals across the United States. The Democrats want to get rid of that. They're playing a weak hand, the Democrats are.
Yeah, I know, but they are digging in. And so what is the impact? It feels like a shutdown is happening, and the only question is how long it will last.
Well, I think the key thing is the president needs to message that if it gets to that point, and I hope it does not, that Social Security checks are going to be going out. Medicare checks, they'll be paid, that the core functions of government will operate as they should.
I'm sorry, the Russ vote put out letters to all the major agencies to expect massive layoffs if, in fact, we have a shutdown. Can you assess what that might look like? How many job cuts are we talking about? And would that mean that they would be permanent job cuts? Because I know they're looking at people who are not, quote unquote, essential.
Yeah, that's the word that is out there, that that's the action OMB will take. But people should remember that OMB will continue to pay the Medicare and Social Security. Our troops will continue to get paid. That is one of the key things. The administration has the ability to make sure that the core important functions of the federal government are going to be funded. What we may find out is there's some parts of the federal government that aren't so core and not so important.
Well, maybe that's what is needed. Liz Peek, jump in here.
Congressman, it seems to me that the only reason we're going through this political melodrama is because Chuck Schumer got blasted for going along with the latest spending bill, and he's terrified of being primaried by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from the left. What is your assessment of that?
You know, Liz, I wouldn't be surprised if Chuck Schumer is going behind the scenes to 7 other Democrats and saying, yeah, with a wink and a nod, go ahead and vote for this clean continuing resolution. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if he is doing that.
I hope so.
You would not be surprised if he's doing that. So then in other words, he just wants to act tough, to look tough in front of the extremists.
He's in such a difficult position at this point. And I think Democrats recognize it. So while John Fetterman put his voice to it on your show yesterday, Maria, I think other Democrats are quietly agreeing with John Fetterman.
Yeah, I think you're right. Meanwhile, Congressman, you recently announced your campaign for Wisconsin governor. Congrats on that. You are the top Republican to join the race so far. You say you want to make Wisconsin a shining star in America again. What are your plans?
Wisconsin's a great state with wonderful people, but we're lacking leadership at this point. You look at our state, the next governor is going to be left with a $2 billion structural deficit. Our energy costs are now the second highest in the Midwest, used to be among the lowest. We are now ranked, Maria, in the bottom 10 states in America in order to start a business. So it's clear that Wisconsin is headed in the wrong direction. We just need real leadership to make that happen.
All right. Well, we'll be watching the campaign. That is terrific. Meanwhile, Google is vowing to offer reinstatement for YouTube accounts that were permanently banned for political speech. This coming and admitting it faced pressure from the Biden administration to remove content about the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2020 election, Congressman. I mean, give me a break. In the last 2 weeks, we've seen all of this outrage about Jimmy Kimmel being pulled and suspended for a couple of days. And yet, you know, Crimea River, I mean, no mention of what they did during COVID and after the 2020 election, where, God forbid, you said that you got a side effect from the vaccine. You were canceled and taken off of Google, YouTube, Twitter. And does nobody remember what took place in terms of the killing of free speech under the Biden administration, that now all of a sudden it's all talk about President Trump affecting free speech by weighing in on the Jimmy Kimmel situation? Give me a break.
No doubt about it, Maria. And let's hope the era of, let's put a positive spin on it. Let's hope the era of censorship is getting over here. But I'll tell you, I want to give one group of people in particular, Chairman Jim Jordan on Judiciary, a whole lot of credit. I serve on the Judiciary Committee, and we have steadily, methodically, under his leadership, exposed these various companies. Remember, Meta did their mea culpa, what, a year or two ago? Something like that. Now Google is doing theirs. That is real progress to hopefully end the era of censorship in the United States.
But how do we know that another administration, if it's a Democrat administration, is not going to pressure these companies to remove conservatives again?
That certainly could happen. You have another Democrat administration, they may choose to do that. That's why we need to message this on a regular basis. And it's why Judiciary has put information out about Meta, Google, and all the other things that are happening out there on the censorship front, because we want this to burn into the American people's psyche that this was a horrible era for the protection of the First Amendment in America. It should never happen again.
You're right. All right, Congressman, we'll be watching your work and the governor's race. Thank you. Tiffany joining us in Wisconsin. We'll be right back.